Today on Time About the Movies, we got a wide assortment of movies this time around. We don't usually have this many different genres of different movies in general here, but we have a superhero movie, Zack Snyder's controversial Superman take, Man of Steel, which started an even more controversial universe of films that we'll eventually get to as we go along here, but the first movie might not actually be as bad as you remember it. I remember it not being as bad as I remember it, but does my thoughts change on it since we now know what it's eventually evolved to? We'll touch on that as we go along here. We have an apocalyptic comedy that's an R-rated raunchy comedy. This is the End, featuring Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jay Baruchel, Craig Robinson, Jonah Hill, and a plethora of different celebrity cameos in here. We also have Sofia Coppola's latest film, The Bling Ring, which is a heist comedy drama. We have the documentary 20 Feet from Stardom about the world of the backup singers that went on to win the Oscar for Best Documentary later on that year. And then we have My Little Pony Equestria Girls, which is a new take on the Friendship is Magic series that was going on at the time, where instead of ponies, it's them as humans. And yeah, it's a very odd week of movies. We're going all across the board for this one on June 14, 2013. This is Time About the Movies.
You will help them accomplish wonders.
Oh, I know some of you have been waiting for me to get to this movie. Well, guess what? That time has finally come, and yeah, chances are you're going to be extremely disappointed by what I have to say about it. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films that make up June 14th, 2013, and we're starting off with the biggest new release, and that is, of course, Man of Steel. This was, of course, the rebooted attempt to bring Superman into the movies to a new generation of people. And unlike Superman Returns, which came out 7 years prior, which was a much better movie, this was clearly being made because Warner Brothers desperately needed to keep the rights to Superman. They had to get a movie in production by 2011, and they said, Zack Snyder, we know you made your worst movie ever, but come on over to Man of Steel, man. Help us keep Superman in the WB family. And this was the end result of that. I mean, that's quite literally why this movie got made, was because of that. But, yeah, Man of Steel. So this is a reboot of the Superman film series where you have the character's origin story, this time being played by Henry Cavill, who for a number of years have been trying to get all these big movie parts. He was up for Twilight, he was up for James Bond at one point, he didn't get any of those. He landed the role of Superman, and the results are definitely mixed, to say the least. But you also have Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Michael Shannon as General Zod, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, and Russell Crowe as Jor-El. And when this movie came out, we witnessed a rare event in movie criticism where this is one of those rare movies that has no real wrong answer in how you think about the film. There's people who love it, who have legitimate reasons about why it's good, and then there are people who have legitimate reasons of why it's bad, and hate it. And yeah, which end of the spectrum am I on, per se? I'm kind of on the side of the people that like the movie, but I do recognize that it's got a lot of problems. It's a lot like Superman Returns. It's got flaws to it, but I still enjoy the hell out of that movie more than Man of Steel, certainly. But Zack Snyder thankfully puts aside his traditional directing styles and gives Superman maybe not the best start to relaunch this with, but at least signs of a promising future for the Man of Steel in terms of movies, or so we thought. But I'll touch on that later on. But I did like what they did with Amy Adams in this movie. Lawrence Fishburne I thought was pretty good as Perry White. Michael Shannon, pretty fun overall as General Zod, although definitely he's no Terrence Stamp. You know, Kevin Costner overall, like, I'll give it this. Like, some of the things he said are kind of a bit much, but to his credit, he does give his all in this movie, and he has some of the more thought-provoking moments of the film in general. There's some stuff in there that's kind of stupid, we'll touch on here, but one of the big surprises in here was how good Russell Crowe was. I mean, I thought he was actually really good as Jor-El. I thought he was one of the stronger parts of the movie, and it made me forget that he can't, and it makes you totally forget that the dude can't sing to save his life in general, if you just saw Les Miserables. But even people that don't usually get talked about all that much, like Zod's sub-commander, Feora, played by Anjay Traou, was actually one of the better female villains I've ever seen. Like, the thing about her that makes her more intriguing is that she does more villainous things than something like Maria Cotillard did with The Dark Knight Rises as Talia al Ghul. Like, she was much better than Al Ghul was in Dark Knight Rises. She was actually menacing. She showed no mercy. And, you know, I mean, it's something where, it's just definitely something where it's much better than how they did in The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, no question about it. I mean, you know, the big thing with the big problem I have with The Dark Knight Rises was the fact that she became a villain in the last 3 minutes of her time on screen for no reason whatsoever. No, you found more threatening things out of Feora than you did with Al Ghul. I'll just say that. But I do like that there was no third act twist because, yeah, we had gotten to this point in the summer of 2013 where every single blockbuster had to have a third act twist in it, and sometimes it started up promisingly and ended up being terrible. Other times it was just bad from the get-go, and this one definitely does that. It doesn't do that per se, so I was glad to see that. I thought Hans Zimmer's score overall was pretty good, for the most part. I'll touch on some of the other things I didn't like, and I'll start off with some of the things I really didn't like. For one thing, the product placement was ridiculous. It was like all over the place in this movie, like Nikon cameras, IHOP, 7-Eleven. Fucking Sears had a promotional push in this movie. Like, Sears was making a big deal that they were in this movie in their ads, and he gets into a fight and crashes. Superman gets into a fight and crashes into a Sears. That's it. It's a minute-long scene, and they make it a big deal, like Superman and Sears are working together, like Sears is the hot shit, which turns out it's not going to be the only summer 2013 blockbuster that's going to have Sears as one of its major tie-ins. We'll get to the other one, which, okay, it's not really a blockbuster, but it is a big sequel, with Grown Ups 2 having another big Sears push. Like, Sears was really in the final days of its existence at this point. So yeah, for them to have this big push makes no sense whatsoever, but I digress. The first two acts, I think, are the strongest part of it, and the third act overall is great and epic, but it leaves without explaining how Superman became the good guy again. Like, literally, the last 5 minutes of the movie almost ruined the entire movie because it ends with the city in ruins. Millions of people are probably dead, and we don't know how the public feels about Superman at this point, and they never explain it. The last 5 minutes are so rushed. We just have this huge climax, and it just wraps up real quickly for no reason. It's like Star Trek Into Darkness again, but, like, it was like that for a lot of movies, like Star Trek Into Darkness, I mentioned. Iron Man 3 had that. The film also takes a new approach to the Superman universe and completely redoes it with a lot of the Superman story. A lot of the changes I like, but the things I didn't like are definitely there. The things I liked that Lois Lane knew who Superman really was from the get-go. They don't pull out the cop-out bullshit where Lois doesn't know who Clark really is. And I like the fact that Lois knows what Superman is. That's what made her feel like... That's what I liked about her in this movie, because she can help Superman become that hero we know he's going to become. It's like in Oz the Great and Powerful, where you have Glinda the Good Witch knowing that Oz is not really a wizard, but she doesn't mistrust him in any way, shape, or form, because she knows that he could be a better person for the Wizard of Oz in general. But I like that Superman isn't just the good guy who never kills. He's got to kill somebody, and he can't let him go. He has no choice. He's got to kill him. I know the big controversy is the fact that he kills Zod at the end. It's just like, yeah, he doesn't have a choice, because Zod is literally going to kill these people if he doesn't do that. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you see that Superman doesn't want to do it, but there was no other option to it. And in that case, I was able to give him a pass on that one. I also like the fact that even though Jor-El is dead, he can still help Kal-El with the ways of the world through this device that he left with him. And he even helps Lois Lane out, which I actually thought was pretty cool that they were able to put that in there. Some of that stuff I thought was pretty good. There was a lot of things I really didn't like about it. Like, I didn't like the fact that, you know, they did a gender reversal on Jenny Olsen, which turned out to be BS, because literally in the next movie, Dawn of Justice, they have Jimmy Olsen in there only for him to get killed off in the beginning of it. But yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I didn't like the fact that they talked about how the Kents found... They didn't even talk about how the Kents found Kal-El. He's just kind of there. Like, they don't show him crashing the rocket. They just glance over it like he's a student at school. It's just like, you're redoing this whole story bring him in there. Like, bring that part in there. Like, say why, give us at least somewhat of an origin story. You don't have to do, like, a long version of it. Just, do what you did. It's like, I'll explain how one Superman movie that did it a whole lot better. I think you know which one I'm talking about here. As much as I love Kevin Costner in this movie, the tornado scene is one of the most stupidest things I have ever seen in my life. It has the potential to be a good scene in general, but it is so poorly done. The tornado looks fake. Costner's acting in the scene is so terrible. And just the scene where Clark's going to rescue him and Costner goes like, no, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. And it's just like, I'm thinking, dude, you could go ahead and save him. We know that this dude can move faster than a speeding bull. It's just like, you can grab him under the bridge in 2 seconds flat, but then it's just like, no, let me do this because I need to die so you can be a better superhero. It's just like, they're not making any sense by doing that. Not at all. And Henry Cavill, the guy is proven to be a great actor, but I'm sorry, I hate his Superman so much. He comes off more as a douchebag than the other interpretations have done. Like, he knows he's the most powerful human being on the face of the planet. In those early scenes when Superman's on Earth, he just comes off as the ultimate dickhead. But as the film progresses, he does slowly but surely become more that character. But I just can't help the fact that he had this stubborn look on his face, like, yes, I know I'm better than you, and I'm not willing to apologize for that. The biggest change I hated about the movie is the theme. Like, I understand you not wanting to use the Superman John Williams theme and want to do something new and different, but, like, they didn't use the Danny Elfman Batman theme in the Nolan Batman movies. I'm fine with that, because Hans Zimmer did a pretty good job at it. And he's doing this, but you really could have come up with a better theme than this. I mean, it's a good theme, but it doesn't scream out Superman. When John Williams does the Superman theme, you can literally hear the words coming out of the music in general here. And with Zimmer, he does a good job with the score overall, but it's not an epic piece of music like Williams' score is. I mean, this should be something on the level of a Superman theme. I mean, the Superman theme should be epic on a grand scale. I mean, look what Al Silvestri did with the Avengers. Like, that's a great theme, and he's one of my favorite composers of all time, and that's one of the reasons why I really do like him a lot. I mean, it's just, there's just so many problems with this movie in general here. Compare this to The Amazing Spider-Man from the year before. I think it did everything wrong. I think Amazing Spider-Man, everything that movie did wrong, this one did most of it right. I mean, they're not stealing things from the much better Batman movies. They aren't making it dark for the sake of being dark. The villain's main plan isn't a lazy plan. The relationships don't seem forced. The movie overall doesn't feel like a cash cow by somebody that clearly had a problem with what Sam Raimi was doing with the Spider-Man movies beforehand. It does feel like a movie where you could see the effort being put in there. And as much as Zack Snyder is somebody that doesn't like Superman, you could see that in this one he was at least trying. And while not everything about it works, I do enjoy it. It's not Batman Begins, it's not Star Trek, but it was a good beginning to what I think a lot of people were thinking was going to be bigger and better things for Superman. From the direction, the good acting, the impressive action sequences, the over-the-top third act finale. It's a flawed film, but I gave points for it for the stuff that worked. And then, of course, we know what happened after that with the Snyderverse movies and how it just got worse and worse and worse, with a couple of exceptions here and there that were actually high points. But yeah, it was never as good as the potential that it could have been. And it took 12 years later for James Gunn to really show you what this movie should have been all the way through. Yeah, James Gunn killed the Snyderverse with one Superman movie earlier this year. And yeah, it's the best. It's one of the best movies of the year. And it's easily what Man of Steel as a whole should have been. As it is, half of it's good, half of it's bad. But yeah, it's fine for what it is. But it definitely screams out so much more that could have been done with this. So that's all I got to say about that one. That is Man of Steel. So get your hate comments in there, Snyderverse lovers. I know you want to do that, but I'm sorry, I'm not changing my thoughts on this. But let's go ahead though and try to move on to our next movie here. Try to move on to our next movie. But next movie here. This is the End.
It's too late for you. You're already in the hole. Ow! I tried to save a disease. I tried.
Everyone gets a fifth of everything.
I want 1/5 of your t-shirt, the bottom part.
You couldn't handle my midriff.
I don't need a group. I'm like DMX, man. You can't stop, drop, and open up shop alone.
This is the End. Rated R.
Which I'm willing to believe is that what a lot of Snyder fans want me to say. This is the end, but no, we still have a long, long way to go here, folks. This is the end. This is the apocalyptic comedy starring Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jay Baruchel, Jonah Hill, Danny McBride, Craig Robinson, and a plethora of celebrity cameos in here. I mean, you have a movie that basically starts off as a celebrity orgy pretty much, but you have James Franco hosting a house party in his home in California, and basically the end of the world happens, and all this craziness happens across the board. You have all these different celebrities like Rihanna, Michael Cera, Jason Segel, Kevin Hart, Aziz Ansari, among many others in the initial part of the film, and then they all get killed off when the apocalypse happens, and so the main six have to face off against demons and other mythical creatures that are out to kill them as the apocalypse happens. And in a summer where a lot of big blockbusters start off great and then just fall apart in the third act, I'm happy to report that This Is the End is the movie that makes me say all is not lost, because this definitely is the most fun I've had with a movie so far this summer. It's the best it's the best, most original comedy I've seen since Ted, and it works because, hey, you've got a cast that includes a lot of funny people in it. Seth Rogen and his buddies work well together here. They should have they've been friends in real life, and basically are doing what Adam Sandler and his crew have failed to do with the more recent films they've done, especially the Grown Ups movies, which we'll touch on Grown Ups 2 in the not too distant future. But you also have to wonder if this is pretty much how these guys would really react if the apocalypse actually did happen, which I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of did. The comedy, I think, is really good. There's a lot of great self-referential jokes at the actors themselves, and it does not feel forced whatsoever, or just thrown in there because the hell with it. It feels very genuine. Not only does the comedy work, the creature designs and the makeup on this is impressive. When you see the creatures in this movie, it looks like something that could actually happen, which is amazing to look at. Yeah, it's made with a computer, the big demon at the end, but it does not look fake at all. They did a very good job of making this look authentic and making it seem like that we are going to make this look as real as it could possibly be. Again, this was a movie that only cost a very short amount of money to make, $30 million overall. And it does not feel like that. It feels like they spent a lot more on it, but no, behold, it actually works overall. And kind of like with Man of Steel, which was everything that Amazing Spider-Man failed to be the year before, this is what The Watch should have been like last year. This is the thing This Is the End is the movie that The Watch wishes it could be. Make a high-concept comedy with impressive visuals, good solid laughs, and not only does that succeed in that, it's also one of the best written and laugh-out-loud comedies I've had in a long, long time. The very end, when Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You from The Bodyguard starts playing, the first time I saw that, I was laughing my ass off, because it's just like, the scene itself is just so pitch perfect, and just a perfect way to end that movie, man. This was a fun movie. This is easily my favorite movie of the summer up to that point, and it's really hard not to see why. It is a really, really great film. I can't recommend this puppy enough. This Is the End. Terrific, terrific stuff. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie here, and that is Sofia Coppola's latest film, The Bling Ring.
To be a part of the lifestyle. Why chase fame when you can steal it?
Let's go shopping.
Based on actual events.
Did you get a new dress? Police are investigating the Hollywood Hills burglaries.
Superb, dazzling, brilliant.
I want to lead a country one day, for all I know.
The Bling Ring, in cinemas July 5th.
So this is based off of the Vanity Fair article, The Subject Wears Louis Vuittons by Nancy Jo Sales, which delves into a real-life gang known as the Bling Ring, and follows a group of fame-obsessed teenagers who use the internet to track celebrities' whereabouts to burgle their homes. And you have a cast that also includes Emma Watson, Thaisa Farmiga, the older sister of Vera Farmiga, Leslie Mann, Israel Broussard, Katie Chang, and, you know, this is a movie where Sofia Coppola returns to a form that had been kind of lost on the last movie she made, Somewhere, which was not a bad movie, but definitely felt more like a mainstream movie. This feels like it's returning to what Sofia Coppola can do as the director as a whole and make it work. This is a really good movie overall, and it works because of the acting overall. The storytelling is very well done. I really like the casting of Emma Watson here. This is one of her. I think this was one of her big first outings as an actress, as a leading actress outside of the Harry Potter movies. I think that was what it was. If it wasn't that, it was definitely early on in that, but it's a chance to really show what she can do as a whole, and she makes it work in general here. She really is the strongest part of this movie. It get a little preachy at times, too, and a little bit pretentious for its own good, but the overall fun factor of it does work very well, and Coppola really does deliver everything she needs to deliver to make this story entertaining all across the board. And I enjoy it, man. I thought it was a very good film overall. I think it was very entertaining. Definitely one worth checking out if you haven't seen it. The Bling Ring is one I definitely recommend checking out. So that's The Bling Ring. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, and that is the documentary 20 Feet from Stardom.
Charlie Love.
So this is essentially a documentary looking at the lives of background singers for various artists and performers, and that's the inspiration for the making of the film, using archival footage, new interviews, detailing the behind-the-scenes experiences for backup singers for people like Darlene Love, and actually, Darlene Love was one of the backup singers. Mary Clayton, Lisa Fisher, Tata Vega, and one of the more notable ones is Judith Hill, who, if you remember from Michael Jackson's This Is It, she was the backup singer for Michael Jackson. She also did a lot for Prince, and also, who else did she do it for? She did Josh Groban, too. But, yeah, this is directed by Morgan Neville, who would later go on to direct the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And more recently, he directed one of my favorite movies from last year, Piece by Piece. So they got a really good director here overall, and it's a really engaging documentary overall that does give you this really good backstory behind all these people who make a living out of doing the backup singing for these notable artists in general here. I mean, you see it all across the board here. You see, like, archival footage of people like Ike and Tina Turner, Luther Vandross, David Letterman, Elton John, Kylie Minogue, Ray Charles, David Bowie. The cast also includes Bruce Springsteen in there, Sting, just Stevie Wonder, a lot of notable names in here that you should be very familiar with if you follow music in general. And it's a really good documentary overall. It's not too long. It's only about an hour and a half long, and it does deliver everything you want to see in a documentary like this. That ended up winning Best Documentary Feature 23 years after another documentary that was kind of similar, In the Shadow of Stars, which was also kind of the same thing, except this time with an opera chorus, won that exact same award. So that was kind of intriguing overall to see that. But yeah, this is a really entertaining film. It's a really good documentary in general, and one that I do recommend checking out. It's definitely worth a watch, 20 Feet from Stardom. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here. A very weird oddity of a film, to say the least. And even if you were a fan of Friendship is Magic, the TV show back then, needless to say, you had a lot of question marks about My Little Pony Equestria Girls.
I am excited, but I'm a little nervous too. Twilight!
You'll soon know more about this place than even I do.
What am I?
Whoa, you okay?
You must be new here.
My magic isn't working. My name's Kelly Sparkle and Pinkie Pie? You're officially up for the coveted princess of the fall formal crown.
Where is this Twilight Sparkle?
I'm so nervous right now.
You do realize that's not a real word, right?
So yeah, believe it or not, this was actually kind of extremely controversial for the bronies back then, because they didn't realize that they realized that the show that they somehow fell in love with Friendship is Magic, it was basically a girls' toy line, and this is basically My Little Pony meets Bratz pretty much, because they do kind of look like the Bratz dolls in general here. But in terms of Friendship is Magic, like I've touched on this a couple of times in the other videos and on the website, that I was a fan of I am a fan of the show in general. I really mostly came into it because of the people behind the scenes. Lauren Foss from the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory. One of the main people behind it in general. That's how I kind of came into it, and it really is a good show overall. I don't think I would consider myself a brony per se, like I did like a lot of people were back then, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. It was one of those shows that made the Hub so special when it came out. That and Dan Versus, but of course, now the Hub is just Discovery Family, a.k.a. the leftovers for Warner Brothers, pretty much. But But then you have this movie here, which takes place after the end of the show's 3rd season, where you have Twilight Sparkle, voiced by Tara Strong, being sent to the human world to recover her magical crown after it's stolen by a bitter sunset shimmer. And while learning how to behave as a human, she comes to befriend the human counterparts of her pony friends, and with their help stop Sunset and recover the crown. So, a plot that's very much a fish-out-of-water storyline, to say the least. Except this time, it's basically Twilight doing the same thing she did in the first episode of the original show, except this time she's got to do it with these human characters, which, yeah, it does seem very repetitive in general here, and there was a lot of criticism and controversy about it. All the word of mouth had been like, oh, how's this going to work out? It's just like, oh, this is too much even for me, and it's just like, it's not that bad. It's okay. There's nothing really spectacular about this. This is one of those things that was a Fathom of... I think it was a Fathom events... Like, it wasn't Fathom events, but it was kind of like that, where it was like something that you would see once in theaters on this. It was actually came out on a Sunday, as you saw at the end there. It came out on June 16th. It's like a one-day event, so... This could have been something that should have been just a TV movie and nothing that really screams out the big screen in general. And honestly, it really would have been not surprised me at all if this wasn't intended to be a theatrical release at all and more like a TV movie on the hub. But because the show was so big, it felt like they were obligated to put it on the big screen, which is funny because 4 years later, the actual My Little Pony, the movie based off of the show, did come out, and slightly better. At least it looked like an animated movie made for the big screen, but even that one doesn't have a lot of great things about it. We'll touch on that in 2017, but like I said, it's decent overall. It is kind of fun to see Twilight and Spike trying to exist in our world, and the movie as a whole is basically, like I said, a fish-out-of-water story. It's something we've seen kind of done before. The characters are the same way we come to know them as. You know, Twilight's still the bookworm. Pinkie Pie's still the party animal. Fluttershy's the shy one. Rarity's the fashionista. Rainbow Dash is the adrenaline junkie. Applejack's the country girl. They basically are that, except they're humans now. And they are what kind of hold the movie together, because the building of the friendship in there hooks you right in, and you're invested in it if you do get attached to it. I do like the little inside jokes, putting like human characters from the show. Like, you have Derpy Hooves in there, you have Photo Finish, Final Scratch. They basically mention stuff like the Grand Galloping Gala and the songs that the Cutie Mark Crusaders sing that were in the talent show. The villain, I thought, was kind of executed pretty well here. And when you see that she turns into this demonic creature, it does look kind of cool. When it comes to the series villains in general here, the only two that I ended up really kind of enjoying from the show was Sombra from the 3rd season premiere and Sunset Shimmer here. Like, I mean, at the time, I was not even that big of a fan of Discord, even though he's like the big villain that everybody kind of knows from the show. That's also kind of like the good guy, too. He's basically John Delancey doing Q from Star Trek The Next Generation, except this time he's a dragon. And the villain from the Royal Wedding finale was just basically a lame retread of Ursula from The Little Mermaid, pretty much. Like, it's weird that the female ponies get possessed by demons in the show too much. Like, it's like, first it happens to Cadence in the Royal Wedding, and now Sunset Shimmer in this. But there's definitely a lot of stuff in this that is really, really pointless. Like, there's a point where the film just stops for this long, and I mean long, sequence that really could have been taken out altogether. Like, there's a part where Sunset Shimmer is trying to get Twilight framed for wrecking the gym on the night of the fall formal. She gets suspended and not allowed to compete in the big competition they have by the vice principal, who is basically Twilight's mentor in the pony world, Luna, who's now a human as well. And then, not but a few seconds later, a boy that Twilight befriends, Flash Sentry, ends up falling for her, comes in and saves her by saying that she was accused, and he's got the pictures to prove it, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're not suspended then. Okay, well then, the big thing is that the whole scene takes place in under a minute, and it does nothing to the story, and it feels really pointless. In fact, the whole scene after that, where, you know, Twilight has to reveal to everybody that she's from another universe, and, you know, they basically have to get together to put the formula together. It's 10 minutes of the film that could have easily been cut out and left you with nothing from when it began to when it ended. And yeah, my biggest problem with that is that, you know, it just feels really pointless. And it felt like it was thrown in there to stretch the time out, because this thing is barely under an hour and a half long. I mean, it's not a long movie in general here, but even at the end of the movie, when the magic of friendship brings the main six together, and once their magic comes together, they briefly turn into pony-like humans with pony ears and tails. And it just felt like they were kind of forcing that in there. It just kind of felt like, you know, Why is that even in there? What part does this play to the story in general here? And like I said, it's a decent movie. I kind of look at it the same way I did with the all-grown-up Rugrats special. It's pretty much that. Okay, but nothing spectacular. It's cool to see a different take on these characters in general, but there's nothing about this that really should have warranted a theatrical release in general here. And if a fan of the show goes into it with the right note, I think they can find some value into it overall, but this is really something that could have just gone straight to DVD in general. I mean, this is something that did not need to be seen on a big screen overall, and yeah, it's fine, but not really one of the better things to come out of the series in general. If you're going to see My Little Pony on the big screen, wait a couple of years for the My Little Pony movie to come out, which, again, not a great movie, but certainly better than what this was, so there you go. That's my thoughts on Equestria Girls. Yeah, not the greatest thing ever, but certainly not as bad as people made it out to be back then. That's for sure. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we are starting to get into the good summer movies now, going forward here. We have 2 movies that I thought overall were very enjoyable. We have Monsters University, the sequel to Monsters Incorporated, which is also basically a prequel where you find out how Sully met Mike for the first time when they were in college. We have Brad Pitt starring in World War Z, the high-octane zombie movie based off of Max Landis' story. And then a movie that actually came out a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to touch on it because of This Is the End. Craig Robinson had another Rapture comedy that came out in June of 2013, which I just found out was supposed to come out on the 7th, but screw it, we'll just talk about it this week. It's also got Anna Kendrick in it too. Rapture Palooza. So 3 films to take a look at next time around. We'll touch on that tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But with all of that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist. Don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. And with all that said, I will see you next time. Whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I'll see you at the movies. Take care.